Okay, welcome to Buchla Break broadcast number 3. Thanks for tuning in. We'll pull that out for now. Just a couple of things. If this is your first time tuning in, you may want to check Buchla Breaks 1 and 2 because I go through and describe the modules in more detail. At this point, I'm going to assume everyone's sort of grokking this live performance setup made up of modules from 200E series, 200 clone series, and there's one 100 module there. Also, some of you have been online talking about using Ableton, which is something I do use with my desktop. And I know you can loop in Ableton. What I use for live performance when I'm cooking into Ableton is this Logity. It's very simple. I like simple things, and it works really well with the looper inside of Ableton. So, also, something I didn't point out last week when I hooked up the wine glass to the envelope detector and then was frequency modulating an oscillator, I was using this probably somewhat controversial patch cable that goes from banana to 1/8 of an inch, sort of more. Actually, then I was able to take the envelope detector out here and then go into the frequency modulator on the oscillator. That's a whole nother day. It's a whole, I think there is a thread or two actually on Muff Wiggler. So you might want to check that out because you don't want to, this is like, don't try this at home, kids. If you get the wrong jack going out, you can do some damage. As I say, another day on that. And finally, just some housekeeping. I had a question about the 207 and some of the other jacks in this. There's an expansion in up here, which is stereo in, and it's just at unity. If you want to have any volume control, I'm assuming that it was originally designed to like bring a feed off of a submixer that had maybe tape decks and radios and turntables going, so that the submixer would be your volume control, but you could feed it into the entire array through the 207R in this case. And then the blue program buttons down here sort of act as mute buttons for the whatever live setup you have going here. And then the yellow buttons are really cool. It turns this thing sort of like this must have been the earliest DJ mixer around, because these act as solo buttons, so you can solo what's coming in on these tracks without affecting the audience, what the audience is hearing in the main mix. So you can test drive things and then eventually just fade it in. Okay, today we're going to transform just some drone stuff and take it through some permutations. I think my one oscillator is drifting, but what's happening here is I'm going through the mod oscillator on the 259E is set at high, so it's an audio oscillator, and it's just going out to a input on the 291E filter, and then that's coming out to the module mixer on channel A. And then channel B is the principal oscillator of the 259E. It's going to be in the filter, etc. And then the modulation oscillator on the 259 is also in the audio range, and it's going into C and over here to the module. So I can independently listen to, and I'm going to set the, so that's the modulation oscillator over here. This is the principal oscillator off the 259, and that's the modulation. Now, to make that more interesting, what I can do is take and use these different envelope generators to modulate the filter. Or get polyrhythms or delay, or and then I can do that with the other. Now with B, I'll hook that up. And then bring them together. And then finally do C. So you can see that you could just keep going on, or I could keep going on for a while exploring different avenues down that. Okay, enough of that. And then, of course, we can start using this trigger out to, say, go to trigger in of the morphin. Let's use this patch cable. Trigger out, clock in. And then this is a variation on 5-synth Philippe's wonderful multiplex banana sculpture. And we can, it's coming out all 4 here. So we can do this and, okay, put that in. And also another thing we can do, of course, is instead of taking, let's put, oh, we got this one in. That oscillator isn't connected to anything but the mixer. And of course we can take this little rhythm we've got going, and instead of going into the gate here, we can go frequency modulate this puppy. And then we can bring the other channels in. Just a thought. Take that out. Back here. Okay. And once again, I'm going to try to stop around 12.5 minutes because that's when the big commercial kicks in. We're going to crescendo, or maybe I'll make it 13 today. Okay. Also, Adam, Django's Fire, suggesting you might come down here one of these days, in which case we'd just go for it and go for a half hour, 45 minutes, something like that. At any rate, let's mess this up a bit for our ending. This is basically a really down and dirty quick Krell patch, taking this envelope generator and just going into the decay to give it some asymmetry. Okay, thanks for tuning in. See you next week. Bye.